Welcome, everyone, to today's show. I'm JJ Flazanes, your host and producer. Thank you for downloading today's episode. Today, we're going to have the fourth and final part of our four-part series with Lynne Forrest on betrayal. I'm excited about today's episode. There was a little space between the first three and the fourth one on the original Fit to Love podcast. So you'll notice there's a better quality mic, and we do review a little bit of the victim consciousness, but hopefully you'll hear some new things and be able to apply these immediately. I really hope you enjoy this series, and let me know if you'd like more like this. Come on into either the 30-day manifestation challenge group if you're a part of that group, or if you're a member of the Inner Circle membership, let me know. And again, just a few announcements. Inner Circle membership is going from $9.99 a month, that's $10, up to $14.99 a month starting March 1st. So if you wanted to get in at the $9.99, you have to do it before March 1st. And there is still 1 or 2 spaces left in the Empowerment Strategist Beta certification. If you think you'd like to do what I do and be a part of this team and help empower others, we are putting it together over the next 6 months starting in April, although we may start just a little bit sooner in terms of a meet and greet because I have the majority of people who are ready. So you would go to jjflazanes.com/cert, like certification, C-E-R-T, and I will put that link in the show notes. So if that's of interest to you, time is running out in order to get involved in the beta certification, which just means you're going to be going through the process with me, and we're going to figure it out together. And because of that, the price is a little bit less than it will be when I bring out the certification again in October. So I hope you enjoy today's show. We have back one of our superstars, Lynne Forrest. Lynne Forrest is a reality guide and personal growth mentor. Lynne was educated through a lifetime of studying and observing metaphysical life principles taught to her early in life and learning how to apply those principles to her own life in positive ways. She's been sharing her findings with others and watching their lives transform since the 70s and has supported herself and her family through a private practice which was founded on those principles in 1985. As a perpetual student of life and consciousness, Lynne has devoted her career to studying with masters of various disciplines, family dynamics, Jungian principles, dreams and shadow work, psychodrama and energy, as well as the laws of manifestation. Body-oriented practices such as yoga, physical, unwinding, and qigong are just some of the approaches Lynne applies in her work with others. So welcome back to the show, Lynne.
Thank you.
I'm excited to have you on season 2 and to be having this conversation. You were the first person I thought of when I was reading a book recently and the word betrayal was used. And I thought, wow, I know for the average person, I think that's a very widely used word because I know people feel like betrayal is a feeling or it's a thing. Someone has done something to me. And it just spoke to me, and it's because it's something I'd never use. You would not hear me say that someone has betrayed me for multiple reasons, but I want, knowing with your background and with all the things of victim consciousness and the victim and the rescuer that we talked about in season 1. So for any of you that are listening, if you haven't heard Lynne Forrest before, I highly recommend that you check out lynneforrest.com. And we did 3 shows last season that are very, very popular, very well shared, very well downloaded because it's such amazing information. So I've asked Lynne to come back to the show for season 2 for more than one show, of course, but this one specifically on betrayal. So let's just start out by, Lynne, what comes to you? What do you think, and how do you want to explain when I say that word betrayal to us?
I think of betrayal as something we first commit in our own minds to ourselves. The world is a mirror. It's always reflecting to us our relationship with ourselves. And so if someone, quote, betrays me, then the first question I must ask is, how have I betrayed me? And it may not be in the same way that they, quote, betrayed. However, they are mirroring some part of a way that I have let me down, turned on me, betrayed my values, betrayed my truth, betrayed my needs. There is something being mirrored to me because the very first guiding principle that the work that I do is founded on is one that says there are no coincidences, there are no mistakes, that what we encounter in our day-to-day walk through life is going to be that which is a match for what it is we believe, simply because The reality formula from which my work is grounded or is grounded on says simply this: when we believe a thought, we feel and act as if it's true. And when we feel and act as if what we believe is true, we will act in ways that will prove it to us. So if I'm in a relationship and I feel betrayed, then the first question I must ask is, how did I betray me first?
I'm right with you, and I love that. Now, for the average person that's listening to this, if they're part of the Fit to Love community, they're probably right with you too. But there might be a few people that click on this show because they see the word betrayal in the title and think, oh, I've been betrayed many times. And now this is new information for me. And you're telling me that if I've been betrayed, someone hurt me, they did something to me that was violent or mean or neglectful, or they abandoned me, or they went back on a promise, that it's somehow my fault.
So I'm saying that the law of cause and effect says that everything does have a cause. I'm not saying they didn't do those things. I'm saying they wouldn't be on my path. I wouldn't have been attracted to it, unless I was being asked to see something that will help refine my consciousness. Because not only are there no coincidences or accidents in the world, the universe is also ultimately for us, so that what we encounter, and yes, it may be painful, what we encounter is there in our path because we're being asked again to refine our own consciousness. So that, because again, if the world is a mirror, what that means is I'm going to attract to me that which I'm believing, because I'm feeling and acting in ways that will attract it to me. And not that any of this is conscious. This is why I need to see it in physical form. I need to experience how it is, what it is I'm doing to me. Now, that doesn't say, I'm not saying they're didn't do what they did. I'm just saying I have two choices. I can either make it all about them, stay mad at them, feel and make deductions like I'll never love again, or I'll never trust anyone again. I can go that route, but that is a confining, very limited way to live. There's not much peace in it. So it's really just depends on, do I want to make peace with the way reality is? The reality is they did what they did. And I can either make that at me or about me, or make it my fault, or I can say, well, how can I use this to refine my own consciousness with it?
So the first way was to make it all about them. And is the second way to make it all about you or myself?
It's not about blame, because if there's blame, then I'm still in victim consciousness. Blame is the number one characteristic of victim consciousness. It's about stepping out of blame and not needing to make anyone the bad guy. The one thing that we can trust about every human being is that they do what they do simply for one reason, and it's the same reason for all humanity, and that's because we do what we do because we believe what we think. And when we believe what we think, we will feel and act as if it's true. They did what they did, not at me, not against me, not to me, even if they thought they were. I get to choose whether to make that about me and thereby go along with perhaps their story about me, or decide that, wow, this was not about me, but it certainly was for me. I can learn from it. It's happening for a reason that is about polishing and refining my own character, my own internal self, and my relationship with myself and that which sources me.
Okay. Well, I have always said, especially since learning about law of attraction years ago, that if I was the creator of my own reality, then the good news is I get to change that. So if something negative would happen, or something that I didn't like or didn't want or didn't think I wanted happened, I would say, even when it's other people's quote unquote behavior that I'm reflecting back and not liking, I would ask myself, how did I manifest this? What's the lesson in this for me? What am I supposed to take a look at? Mm-hmm. And so when I went back and said, because you said there were two choices, all about them, which is also victim consciousness, which I do want you to talk about because we haven't addressed that yet on season 2. So to me, it's all blaming, absolutely blaming. So, but are you saying that also if I blamed myself? Because I'm not trying to blame myself and say it's all me, it's all my fault, I'm a bad person or anything like like that. I like to take the power and say, well, somehow, like you said, the universe is for me. It's in my path. I've manifested it. So to me, it's either all about them or it's something about me or it's all about me. Is all about me a bad thing to say?
No, except that it's just not the whole truth. It's not all about me. It's all about refining me so that I can connect with what me is, really. It's like who I am is not this story of a self that I identify with. Who I am is connected to a living intelligence, a universal energy, a source energy, as I call it, source, that actually is the higher story of who we are. It's the higher version. It's I am that which flows through me. I am that. It's about clearing the way through, making our way through the limited stories that we have. And if I'm feeling like either they betrayed me or, and it's a very natural thing for people to say, well, if they betrayed me, it's somehow because I wasn't enough, because I didn't do it right. There's that blamer within us that's going to be there, because why else would I need to point the finger at them? So again, the world is a mirror. It's simply pointing to that in me, which is, and that's a way of betraying me, blaming me for what they do or say, or their choices, whatever their choices are. The one thing we can count on about every relationship, everyone, and that is that people come and they go in our lives. And what I would add to that is that people come and they go right on time. They leave when it's time for them to go, and they arrive when it's time for them to enter. But if I'm resistant to that, I want to say they betrayed me. I want to say they left me. I want to say they did something to, and it may be that they did do those things, and I may decide that that is a relationship that no longer fuels me or feeds me, and make a choice to be the one who leaves because I feel betrayed on some level. But if I'm doing it from the place of betrayal, then I do it in an unhappy state of mind. I do it from a problematic place, a fear-based place, and a resentful place that doesn't leave me in peace. But when I look to them and refuse to see an enemy, but instead see someone who's holding up a mirror, simply reminding me of what it is yet to be refined in me, then all of a sudden they become teachers instead of betrayers.
I have to ask, working with people for as long as you have, do you find that I know you have a process, your reality formula, which we're going to go over, but do you find that there's a time frame of people who are starting to hear this information, or a pain level that might get them to a point where now they're really open and ready to start taking this information and living it differently? Because there is some power, there is some satisfaction in blame, right?
Oh,
Because then it means
we
you don't have to
think.
do anything.
Yeah, we like that. This model is one of self-responsibility. It's about understanding that I have the ability to respond to the world around me, and that the way I respond is what determines the degree of peace I get to experience. But when people hear the word responsibility, self-responsibility in particular, they think that very often to them that translates, oh, you want me to blame me. So it's either they're responsible or I'm responsible. And the reality of it is, it's not about blaming either person. It's about recognizing that we're in each other's lives as teachers. We come and we have the interaction we do, whether it's a pleasant one or not so pleasant one, for the purpose of awakening one another. And sometimes what awakens us is painful. Matter of fact, it must be a primary route to evolution, to consciousness expansion, because it is the one that pain seems to be the most widely used tool to wake us up and get our attention. I've never been able to put it on like a time scale of not being able to predict what it's going to take for someone to awaken and be motivated to let go of the story that's really cause of their pain, which is the betrayer within us, the one who betrays us with the lie or lies. The betrayer in us is that part of our own mind that is constantly saying things to us like, nobody could love you, you'll never make it, you can't do it, whatever downsizing, denigrating message it carries. That is a self-betrayal. It's betraying who it is we really are.
And you just shined a huge light for me on what I was trying to figure out at the beginning with the two choices and the all about them. And when I said, or all about me, when I say all about me, I've done enough of that work and I feel pretty good about myself. I have less of that negative self-talk than maybe somebody else who, when they hear, because you basically just explained why, when I have said sometimes to people in a law of attraction terms, like about manifesting, that they don't hear that as empowering and they hear it as disempowering because it's triggering all those beliefs you just said. Because I'm ready to take the blame, and not as to beat myself up and say there's something wrong with me, but to say, what is it that needs to be taken a look at from a loving place if I want to heal that thing, not from I'm unworthy, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I must have deserved it, any of those things. So thank you for putting that into perspective, because I just interpret it differently than a lot of people, which is now why I'm understanding some people don't like when I say it, because they're interpreting it as, you're telling me it's my fault and there's something wrong with me. And that's not what I'm saying, but they're interpreting it that way because their belief system is, and the wounds are, that they aren't good enough, they don't deserve love, or what are all the other different beliefs that you just mentioned. So I want to ask you to explain victim consciousness before we start to get into sort of how to undo this feeling, this belief. Someone is listening to this and they feel very betrayed by, let's say, family members or a family member or a coworker or a business partner, and they're listening to this and they're understanding it, but now what do I do with that? But before we get to that, I do want you to explain first a little bit about victim consciousness.
The definition of victim consciousness is simply, it's the belief that something outside of me is the cause of my well-being. And that can be a positive or a negative thing. I mean, sometimes it's also true that I believe that something wonderful is keeping me from, or causing me to feel, or keeping me up late at nights, or the reality is there is only one cause that causes our true discomfort, and that is what it is we believe, what it is we're telling ourselves about that thing. Like if someone leaves a relationship, perhaps we made vows together. Maybe there was a deep-seated commitment, even marriage. And there comes a point when that partner leaves, and maybe we don't understand why. But the one thing we can know, we get to choose how to see that. We can get to see it as from the victim perspective that says, they have ruined my life, they have left me, they betrayed me, they made promises they didn't keep. Or we can back off and move into the observer mind that looks at it and says, well, since the universe there's not a mistake, not an accident, and because I can trust that what the universe brings to me is for me somehow. That doesn't mean it's going to feel good and be all cozy and warm. We think of that as being what's for me, or will agree with me. But the universe is interested in my consciousness and helping me refine and grow. And very often what it will do is mirror to me the things that I need to see. And sometimes we just reach a point in relationship where our frequencies no longer match. And so there's going to be a division. So if I need to make that at me, against me, they did it to me, then I suffer. If, on the other hand, I can see it from the perspective that says, well, I didn't like it. It hurts. It hurts because when I think that this was the person I was going to ride off into the sunset with, and that plan is now been thwarted. However, it is what it is. And because I want to be kind to me and I want to make peace with reality, I want to see it in a way that helps me not make it about me. And that would be me moving into observer. So then I begin to look for, how does this serve me? How is it, what needed to happen? How is it that I can grow from this? What am I being asked to see? It takes me on a quest that ultimately leads to a higher plane of functioning. It can. Or I can get on that victim spiral and sort of go down the tubes with it. It's our choice. But most people don't know they have that choice. They just
Right.
assume they have to go down the tubes.
So many people, I think, just continue to repeat the patterns that they learned from family. And I know we've talked about that on the show before, but I agree with you. And this is one of the reasons I'm doing this show, is to continue to allow people to be attracted to information that gives them another choice, that says you don't have to believe this. There is another choice. I even had a conversation with one of my family members about, you get to choose what you believe. And the response was, no, I don't.
Yes.
So, and I thought, okay, well, we're done with this conversation then.
Yeah.
Because if you're not ready or willing to consider another point of view, then this is where you are, and that's what it is. And I'll accept it and move on. But for anyone who's listening now, I want you to give us some tips about someone who's listening to this, who's maybe they've heard about victim consciousness before, have heard your show, they follow you, they follow me, so they're understanding it. But now it's really their time. They're ready to take these steps to start to transform this and to release using of the word betrayal. And let's talk about 3 tips you can give someone. How do I start to transform that? So I'm ready. I'm ready to transform betrayal and start feeling better and getting my power back. How do I do that when for 20 years I've been blaming everybody else for my misery?
The first step is just to recognize what the definition of victim consciousness, to begin to recognize that there are 2 aspects of us living in the same headspace, so to speak. There is that part of us that is run by what I call the victim ego. And everyone, this is not just some that some people have. It's not even a brand of dysfunction. It doesn't mean that you're sick or that there's something wrong with us when we say we are in victim consciousness. It is an everyday state of consciousness that frankly has predominated in our world since forever. And that tells me even that is meant to be, that it is part of the design, that it's not about getting rid of victim consciousness, which is that, again, that looking at the world outside of us as being the reason why we are unhappy. It's because he said, she did, they won't let me. It's something else is out there that's keeping me from happiness. The reason that's a victim state of consciousness is because it says I can't be happy until that changes, which is where control comes from. Because, of course, if I believe that, then the very next thing I'm going to want to do is to control those external forces so that they don't hurt me anymore. But you see, that's not reality. We can't control those outside forces. But what we can do is question whether or not those outside forces really do determine my degree of well-being. And that's where the shift begins to happen. So as soon as I begin to recognize that there's another part of me, another aspect of my mind that doesn't need to see a problem, that doesn't need to make this about me, at me, against me, to me. It doesn't have to be something that shouldn't have happened because, frankly, shoulds are irrelevant. They are just because they have nothing to do with reality. We can all agree something should or shouldn't be the way it is or it isn't. But the bottom line is it the way it is? If so, then we're talking about reality. And so reality is simply the what is. I get to choose whether I'm going to see reality from a standpoint that allows me to be at peace or whether I'm going to see reality as something I need to resist against, be mad about, and make myself miserable over. And that is the first step. That's the first step It's to begin to activate our observer mind as the antidote to the victim ego.
Perfect. So what's step number 2?
After we have activated the observer mind, that allows us to create a gap between us and that belief that we've blindly believed up until now. It's like as long as I believe it, I will take its ride. I will feel the feelings that go with it. I will act and react, is more like it, out of it. And I will harvest the results of those feelings and reactions. And that will end up proving to me my unhappy belief. Like, for instance, if I have a belief that I'm unlovable, then what I will do unconsciously is I will go out and again and again and again, I will be attracted to and attract to me people who will show me just how unlovable I am. And what I don't realize is that I'm doing my part to hand them that script in the way that I interact with them. In other words, we teach them how to treat us. We don't really recognize that, but we do. When I put myself down in front of you, I'm teaching you how to put me down in your own mind. And then it won't be long before you'll be saying back to me the very things I've trained you to say by saying them about myself over and over again. And so if I have a script, a belief, a story that says I'm unlovable, then it's just a matter of time. I'll attract the person who may actually be someone who has a complementary belief system, one that says, for instance, I can never have what I really want, or I never get what I really want. And so they're always looking for something that is not what they want. And so they can't stay long because they have to move on to the next thing because that's their story. Well, that has nothing to do with me. That's their story. That's their theme, their life drama that they're playing on the stage of life. But the one I'm playing, if I'm the one who says no one loves me, is that. And so, but the two of us can come together and we can help each other by playing the part that's the missing part. You be the one who leaves me and betrays me, and I'll be the one that proves to you that you can never be satisfied because I will teach you how I'm less than satisfactory.
And that's exactly what the Fit to Love brand is about. It's that working on yourself or healing yourself or loving yourself and realizing that how you treat yourself is how others will treat you. And exactly what you just said about like that my belief stems from the fact that I think that we can manifest better relationships in our lives when we work on the relationship with ourselves first and noticing and taking the cues from other people, like you said in the beginning, that everyone's a mirror. So if I'm being mirrored back to, what is that saying that I need to look at, and how do I need to be better to myself or change that tape?
Yeah.
So
if the first step is to recognize the difference between the reactionary mind, the victim ego, and the observer, and then we want to step into observer, the second step then would be to step into observer, and the observer is that part of us that simply asks questions. It creates a seed of doubt between us and that stressful thought, that unhappy thought, that negative thought that we have up until this moment blindly believed, just assumed it was true. Now we're asking questions, and that's where I love Byron Katie's work, because she's got those succinct 4 questions and turnaround that helps at this stage of the process, the observer mind. But the bottom line is whether you ask that set of questions or just questions like those, or the questions that come up like, what am I really believing here? And is it true? That's one of Katie's questions. And when I believe it, who do I become? That's another one of her questions. And another question would be, what does it attract from others? When I believe that and act the way I do when I believe it, what do others see? what kind of response does that invite from them? And so now I'm moving into this observer state where instead of being totally enmeshed in victim mind, victim consciousness, I've stepped back. And I haven't changed my mind about what I believe necessarily. It's not that. It's that I've just stepped back to give it a little space, because that space allows me to not have to feel and act as if what I believe is true. When I step into observer, now I'm watching it. I'm inquiring into it. I'm asking questions about it rather than reacting from it. And so I would say that's the second stage. That's the second step. One of the things that quantum physics has established is that the simple act of observing is the transformative agent. That through watching, it's like bringing something out of the dark up into the light, and the light just dissipates it. The darkness being this blind marriage to an unhappy belief. And when I make it conscious and bringing it up into the light of consciousness, that alone gives me a choice. So the next time it happens, I go, oh, this is where I am. Oh, I know where this is. I know I've done this before. And now I get to choose. Am I going to make myself miserable about this by making it all about them or all about me? Or am I going to step back into peace? And so now I have a choice. Choice is freedom.
Okay, so we have recognizing and that you're in this. Number 2 is to step back and to be the observer, which is hugely powerful. And what is the third step?
The third step would be then choosing to see it from a place that furthers me, that I begin to be more interested in what I can learn from what happened than I am in blaming me or the other person. So it's no longer a drama at that point. It becomes a refinement process.
Would you call it leverage? Could it be leverage to expansion in terms
Absolutely.
of being able to see it as, like you said in the beginning, universe is for us. So if this is along my path, there's a reason, because it wants to grow me.
Absolutely. And then what I do is line up. That third step is I line up with what is real. And that brings me to peace. And I do that 3-step process over and over again, as often as I need to throughout the day. Every time I go there, I just remind myself, step back. What am I believing? Is there another way to see this? How can I see this and bring myself into peace?
Beautiful. Now, I'm sure there are a lot of people who are thinking, oh, I need to start learning that and exercising that. So before I can tell you where to find more about Lynne, which I did say at the beginning of the show, lynneforrest.com. So Lynne, I'm interested. I want to work with you. I want to know more about you. Tell me more.
So yeah, if you go to my website, there is a sign up there that you can sign up to receive weekly messages from Lynne. And these are little tidbits of they're lessons, really. They're life lessons in consciousness. So they come once a week on a Thursday, and they are anecdotes taken from my life, my own personal life, and the experience with clients, illustrating these principles and learning the guiding principles. My book, Life Beyond Victim Consciousness, is available at Barnes and Nobles. I do workshops. I work on Skype and do phone sessions. These are all ways that I'm available. And also friend me on Facebook, because my Facebook page, that's what it is. It's just seed thoughts through the day of helping people, supporting people in moving to peace and beginning to understand the guiding principles of reality. And I also have a phone app that's coming out. Or it's out. They're still working out the glitches through NeuroQ, NeuroQue.com. NeuroQ is about building new neural pathways. And I have the Reality Formula as one of the programs they offer, which allows you to actually hear from me throughout the day and begin to instill these principles deeply in the mind, build a new neural pathway based on them, so that when you look at a life situation, you see them automatically through the principles. They say neuroscience says it takes 60 days to build a new neural pathway. Go to my webpage. I've got a blog there. Look up, do a search on guiding principles or universal laws, and you'll pull up those principles. These are all ways that people can have access to this work without paying a penny.
And all of Lynne's links will be on the show notes at fittolove.tv, so come on over and check it out. If you're driving or exercising and you can't remember all of it, just come on back to the show. Lynne, thank you so much again for your brilliance.
Thank you, JJ. It's always fun to be with you.